One Punch. Back when One Punch Man released, this guy was fucking everywhere. The memes, the merchandise, YouTubers made like challenges based on this show. I really couldn't escape it. So, curious, I watched the first season eventually. To relative uninterest, but I mean rewatching it, I was hella wrong. Maybe I'm biased because I got to see Saitama move more than once per shot. Like, there was a scene of Saitama trying to find the quarter, and I was actually mind blown by it. I'm not used to seeing so many frames per second in this show, but this anime is actually amazing. Oh yeah, before I go over that, what is this new series? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. A series where I cover the absolute bottom of the barrel anime series, aka anything with 6+ episodes, or the most decisive. Alright, my end goal is going to be the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. I'll probably make like 2 episodes, get bored and quit, but hopefully we get farther than that because I have a decently sized list of shows that I want to cover. Our first episode is on One Punch Man Season 3, which has gotten a ton of backlash due to its, exceptional animation quality. But before we get there, I'll add a little bit more info, aka a review of Season 1 and 2 that takes up like half the video. Yeah, you can skip ahead if you want, but starting with Season 1, I really liked it, mainly because it's so different from anything else. When I usually think of anime around this sort of shonen demographic, I think of obnoxious leads, excessive fan service, and school. But One Punch Man completely lacks any of these and takes a much more low-key path. Well, except the fan service. I mean, its main character can one-shot anything because of his terrible workout routine, yet he's completely unmoved by this and doesn't really care. It's a nice twist, but the main thing that differentiates the series from the rest is how it uses bad writing to its advantage. This one episode really stood out to me, called The Obsessive Scientist, where most of it covers this dynamic between the scientist and its creation. And it sucks. Like, it isn't remotely interesting at all, and there's no payoff. All that happens is Saitama kills the main villain in one punch. This sounds absolutely horrible, but considering I was aware of what was happening and how the show will go out of its way to create the most tedious path to the most blatant, obvious conclusion, I thought it was funny. Now, of course, sometimes this gets in the way. Mainly some of the side stories where they delay Saitama's entrance as much as possible. Honestly, who cares? One of the best things about One Punch Man is it doesn't take itself seriously, which allows it to up the ante on every fight they can. The show was made by the literal best action animators in the game at the time period, plus Madhouse. Oh yeah, you know this is gonna look good. I mean, look at your screen right now. You know that Saitama is gonna win, but I'm still so immersed in this gorgeous fight. I mean, man, how do you make this? So yeah, it's pretty good, and people were obviously very excited for the next season. And people waited, and waited, and waited, and oh hey look, it's out. And it took 4 years. It's by the same guys who made Toradora. Yeah, when I watch a show, all I'm thinking is One Punch Man. So between this and Season 1, One Punch Man was handed over from Madhouse to JC staff, which was a huge blow considering Madhouse had some of the best animators in the game during this time, and is overall one of the best and most faithful studios to the original manga. So going from that to JC staff, whose most notable works are Slice of Life, and you can kinda see where this is going. But let's not jump to conclusions and give JC staff a chance. Did they create a worthwhile anime for the wait? Nah, this is kinda whatever. Yeah, unfortunately this season is pretty rough in terms of animation and storytelling. A lot of the scenes that aren't fights is literally just like a still frame with a camera slowly panning. And the characters talking is basically the same except their mouths somewhat sync up to their dialogue. Feels kinda lifeless. Now seeing this, I thought they were gonna put all the resources into the fights, and I mean they kind of did. The fights don't look bad per se, more very unpolished. You know, sometimes hits won't even be shown. There's this one scene of Saitama defeating Speedo Sonic by jumping, but there's like no scene of any of the impact of him actually connecting with him. The metal in the show looks disgusting. I mean, why'd you guys have to use CGI for it? Sometimes the characters just look weird, I don't know why. There's this one scene where I genuinely can't tell if this is a mistake or this really is JC staff's vision of how One Punch Man should look. But I'm being too mean, it isn't horrible. It just is so poor compared to the first season that becomes very noticeable, which is a pretty unfair comparison. And if this was just some random show I never heard of, I probably wouldn't even mention this. Well, except for the CGI, it looks pretty bad. However, I will complain a little about just how okay the story is here. This is a build-up arc for the next season, and I could tell. I know I just said I like the bad storytelling in season 1, but they really take it to the next level where I just find that tedious and not funny. Like the whole martial art tournament arc really could have been resolved in like 20 minutes, but instead stretched over the period of like 4 episodes. And yeah, I mean, it sucks. It's tedious. Is that how you want me to feel? Of course, there are still good elements, such as, well, this is still One Punch Man, meaning the humor and the world are still great. King is hilarious, one really loves his frauds, eh? And I was endeared by Garu's character. Since Saitama wasn't in much of this season, I was a little worried as to how they would fill the time during this, especially since no characters so far had captivated me to the point of filling a main character role, but Garu just comes out of nowhere and does great. In fact, I probably like him more than Saitama due to his nice character development, as well as his unique moral code. And hey, I actually kind of enjoyed this season the longer it went on, especially the episode with Garu against all the grade A's, which I thought was pretty decent animation wise and brilliant story wise, leaving the season off with a solid note. So yeah, this wasn't the best, but I left it with high hopes considering I feel like the season was a perfect test as to what JC's staff was capable of, and maybe in the next season they would really capitalize off of it and make more stuff align with Garu versus grade A's fight. That would happen, right? Right? Hey guys, you wanna hear my take on One Punch Man Season 3? Well, you're not gonna believe what I'm gonna say, but it looks like garbage. Some say it even looks like a slideshow. Nothing? Oh, okay, so yeah, this season came out recently and it looks awful. It looks fan-made. And not like good fan-made, like the I can really tell this was made by one person fan-made. Except it was made by an entire team. But let's stay positive. I like the metal designs. They fixed them. Okay, yeah, that's it. Alright, now the bad. So probably the thing you notice the quickest is that like 90% of the frames are very static. I was pretty harsh towards season 2, but at least in that season they like move sometimes. If you remove the lip syncing, there's just no animation. It's just a camera panning up and down on a static panel. It looks like one of my videos, not the 3rd season of One Punch Man. And this is not just one scene I'm cherry picking, it's the entire season. All the scenes of characters talking are just this. But what about those fight scenes? Well, if you're a fan of bad fight scenes, then I mean you're in luck, considering the fights look really bad. Also, most of them are just still frames again. Now, at first I didn't get the insane hate for them because the fight with Garu and the monsters in the park didn't look the worst. But then I got to the midpoint and I instantly realized the backlash. There's episode 5 which hosted possibly the worst fights I've ever seen. Half of it is still frames, the other 25% is these terrible fire animations, which I thought were CGI at first, but no, they're actually just green screen flames. They probably got this shit off of YouTube, and the final 25% is just impossible to comprehend. Like, I'll show you this clip, but keep in mind this is completely unedited. Like, why'd they just skip the fucking impact and everything? It's just Garu's face and then, oh, he's been defeated. Then there's episode 7, which actually is the worst animated fight. Hell, calling it animated feels like a stretch, considering half the fights are completely still. Again, I'm not cherry picking, this is genuinely what 90% of the fight looks like. Go watch it for yourself. Thankfully, it does get better from this point with Flashy Flash's fight, which looks good. They do this really nice blend of CGI and hand-drawn artwork that genuinely is visually appealing, but don't let this fool you. The struggle continues with episode 7, which actually might be the true definitive worst fights. There's this zombie man fight which is awful, don't get me wrong, but what really surprised me was after it, which was just crazy. Like, this is genuinely some of the worst animation I've ever seen in a show this big. It flips from still images to just pure ass. You can tell they really didn't want you to see this one, considering this is one of the last episodes. This leads us to the final kick in the nuts. This season doesn't even go over the entire Monster Associate arc. However, looking back at this shit, this could be a blessing in disguise. And who knows who will cover it next time. Maybe Madhouse, maybe Mappa, maybe Bones who did Mob Psycho. I'm delusional, I'm sorry. So now that we've gone over the sheer dog shit that is the season's animation, you might be wondering how this even happened. I think the average audience member outraged by this will likely go after the guys behind it, JC staff. I mean, they're an easy target considering they are the ones credited, as well as the 6-year gap between this and season 2. How could such a studio be this incompetent? Well, I'll tell you, they weren't. Even if we look back at One Punch Man Season 2 before, despite being on a heavy time crunch, the final product is fairly solid. In fact, this season probably would have looked good if they didn't have a bunch of concurrent projects all releasing around the same time and, well, more time. Let's go over a little timeline. So our first announcement of which studio was working on the show came out in 2022 without any footage. And now that we've seen how this season looks, it's clear that nothing occurred between 2019 and 2022, so just 3 years down the drain. In fact, if we go with that logic, our first actual teaser only came out in February of 2024, which is only of the fight with Garou, which happens in the 3rd episode. So when did One Punch Man actually begin and finish being animated? Well, I have no clue. People have apparently seen the mistake in the frame. I couldn't find it in the episode, so take this with a grain of salt, but the note said that the episode was worked on since 11 days before the episode came out. Not the show, the episode. And this leads us to the main point. Why, after apparently 3 years since it was announced, is the show still currently being animated while it's airing? And even then, it looks so bad for most of its runtime. Well, bad deadlines, again the heavy workload from the amount of anime they're producing around the same time, and the most popular reason, production companies, mainly Bandai Namco. A big reason for the large workload is these production qualities want studios to work on many projects at once to get money, of course, which leads to many of the final products basically being slideshows. Now this usually only affects shows that no one cares about, like My Gift Level 9999, Unlimited Gacha, Backstabbed in the Backwater Dungeon, I'm Out for Revenge. But somehow One Punch Man got roped into this. Now take this with a bucket of salt, but the reason I think why is because there's kind of a bell curve when it comes to quality animation, at least in studios like JC Staff. So new hyped IPs like Dandadan Gachiakuta, My Friend's Little Sister Has It In For Me really need to earn the trust of the people so they're gorgeously animated. But something like One Punch Man, one of the most respected anime manga in our modern era, doesn't need to gain this trust, and people will watch the new season no matter the quality, leading to these executives taking advantage of this and giving studios large amounts of shows to get that money. I mean, sure, it looks like shit, but hey man, it pays the bills. Basically what I'm saying is, if a manga is too niche or too popular, either or will get similar treatment when adapted into an anime. An example happened with Blue Lock, which again super popular manga that beat out One Piece in the first season that gained the trust of the audience, which meant they could do whatever they wanted with the second season with no consequences, leading to extreme deadlines, overworking, and a disappointing product. Another example, the Shibuya incident at JJK had harsh deadlines and a bad work environment, again, which, oh, coincidentally, it's the biggest manga of the year, and like a top 10 most popular anime ever. The only reason that it looks good is because of the monsters at Mappa creating this inhuman animation quality. But if the studio wasn't as stacked as it was, I think it looked just like this. Now obviously this idea is flawed considering not all producers do this, however what I am saying is Bandai Namco 100% does this, and the shitty deadlines of this and the other 5 shows JC Staff need to finish ruined this season. And also going into the season with this knowledge just turns this into a depressing ass watch. It's like watching the corpse of One Punch Man getting violated in front of you. Alright, it's hard to sit through. And I think the worst part of it all is the story is amazing. This is the best arc of One Punch Man for the storyline. I mean, my gosh, this is so well crafted. The ambiguity regarding Garou's morality, his relationship with the little boy. Fuck, that sounds really bad, you know what I mean. The really great antagonists that are the Monster Association, Saitama's story being less and less a part of the plot, letting new characters have more time in the spotlight, but also making his appearances actually special, and of course the insane creativity within these fights. Alright, I absolutely adore the plot of Season 3, and so many of the great scenes made me wish we were back in 2015 and Madhouse had animated this. But again, the animation takes away from what should have been a masterpiece, because it's really distracting when characters start doing this. All these external factors are constantly buzzing in my ear, reminding me how awful the season is while I try to enjoy it for what it offers. And yeah, that's One Punch Man. How do I end this? Oh! Actually, I have an idea. Here's a list of a bunch of dumb nitpicks I have with the animation of One Punch Man Season 3 that honestly really don't matter but took up too much of my attention. And this is just for fun, don't take it seriously. The weird close-ups with the blue and purple lighting, this looks so amateurish. Garu slide, come on, I had to. This food eating sequence, absolute cinema. The beginning of episode 2 with the guys rallying with the slowest panning camera ever. I mean fuck, they're not even trying to hide it. Are those breasts? Garu ripping this piece of clothing. The little boy running, like what is this movement? How is he so fast? Garu fighting this dude and like plastering this shit all over the screen? What is this? I said earlier, but these green screen firing explosions. Dude, if I mentioned everything that bothered me in episode 5, I think we would be here for like an hour, so let's end it on this gorgeous action scene. King's Power Walk. Dude, these colored still frames. It's episode 7 and they're still using them. I imagine the directors realized that the coloring was the only thing this adaptation had, so there was a mandate to make it look terrible as well. The green screen effects are back. Hey, this actually looks good? Is this show getting better? Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Dude, they neutered the vampire guy. This dude slashing these bullets. My gosh, we can't go any lower, right? So there's a scene where Amai Mask kills all the love slaves and this chick, but you actually don't get to see any of the impact of this whatsoever. It just cuts to new frames of them being dead. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? So if you let the JPEG animation scroll down far enough, you'll start seeing the rocks of the wall, but looking at the top half, I'm pretty sure that's just pitch black. Are they taunting me? Oh, okay. This scene... What was that? So the scene context is this dude's ability is his hair is his main weapon, and in the scene he attacks the heroes with his hair. The problem is, what even is happening? Like, are they slashing at the hairs? Why are they just completely still? And you know what's the craziest part of it all? They reuse it! You know, I think this is a good place to end this. So in conclusion, it sucks. Yeah, that's it for my outro. See you next time. 3 out of 10.